Are we having a good time so far? Awesome, awesome, awesome. I believe that the word of the Lord is going to be just for you tonight. I believe God has something very special to say, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Sound good? Are we ready for a word? Good, good. All right, you can turn in your Bibles to Matthew chapter 8. I'll get there in a minute. You don't have to put it on the screen yet. I'll get there in a minute. Matthew chapter 8. There is a popular, semi-famous author. His name is Jack Handy. In his book, he writes this story. He says, there used to be a bully who would demand my lunch money every day. Since I was smaller, I would give it to him. But then I decided I was going to fight back. So Jack says, I signed up and started taking karate lessons. He said, but then the karate lesson guy said I had to start paying him $5 a lesson. So I just went back to paying the bully. Here's the problem with that. Many of us live our lives the same way. That we rather pay the bullies in our life than learn how to defeat them. And so I want to encourage you tonight. I want to give you step-by-step process. And I'm not necessarily speaking particularly about a person, whether it's an issue or an attitude, whether it's a sin nature, whether it's a habitual problem you have or a personality deficiency, whether it's in your house, in your hood, in your school, we're going to defeat the bully tonight. Let's look at Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8, verse 1, New Living Translation, plain English. It's on the screen. Let's read it together. Large crowds followed Jesus as he came down the mountainside. Suddenly a man with leprosy approached him and knelt before him. Lord, the man said, if you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said, be healed. And instantly the leprosy disappeared. Then Jesus said to him, don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. You may be seated. I want to tag this text with this topic tonight, lessons from a leper. Lessons from a leper. I have discovered that we can only celebrate victories because we have been able to escape victimization. This is my point. The only way that you can celebrate that you made it is because you've been through something. The only way you're able to celebrate, the only reason why you're happy and can have happiness and joy unspeakable is because you realize what it is to go through something and come out on the other end. You're not too young to have dealt with some stuff. You've dealt with some stuff. You've had some issues. You've been sick before. You failed a test before. You didn't make the team. A friend stabbed you in the back. Somebody owe you money right now. You know what it is, right? To go through something and come out on the other end. Now, let me help you real quick, though, because about 30 of you got saved last night, and I don't want you to have some misnomer about the gospel. So let me help you real quick, because the longer you live, the loftier life will get. What am I saying? The longer you live, the more stuff you're going to go through. Let me say it another way. Jesus is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Love Jesus, accept Jesus. If you didn't get him last night, get him tonight. But the reality is we're going to deal with some stuff. I got plenty of biblical witnesses for that. Let me call to the witness stand the tent maker from Tarsus. His name is Paul. Paul wrote a third of the New Testament. Most of what you read in the New Testament after you get past the Gospels, Paul wrote. And in 2 Corinthians, Paul has a description about his life. If you read 2 Corinthians 11 all the way through chapter 12, he talks of his tenure and his trials. Dude said, I've been whipped 39 times. I've been beaten with rods. I've been stoned. I've been shipwrecked. I've been locked up. I've been put in jail. People have talked about me and left me for dead. You thought an F was a bad day. Imagine Paul's life. You thought her leaving you for your best friend was bad. Get beaten with rods. He says, I've been through a whole lot of stuff. And then when you get to 2 Corinthians 12, he says, listen, then I had a revelation from God. God took me to a whole nother place. I saw stuff nobody else has ever seen. And because of that, I got a thorn in the flesh. Here's what's jacked up. He prayed to God to remove it, and God wouldn't do it. He said, my grace is sufficient for you. That who I am is enough for you to make it through this. What's my point about this? That many of our deepest truths are birthed out of some of our darkest troubles. That often the sweetest weekend comes after the sorriest week. You know what I'm talking about. Only reason why we say TGIF is because we got to deal with Monday. Only reason why you hype when Friday get here is because you knew what Monday was like. The test was on Monday and the practice was on Tuesday. The heartache was on Wednesday. My mama was on my nerves on Thursday. Thank God it's Friday. Right? Here's the reality. We learn so much from what we go through. I'll give you an example. I have a 3-year-old daughter. You heard her story last night. She's 3. Did you catch that? She didn't die. She's 3. And so we're at the house, and we go to our friend's house, and they had this kitchen table. And it's a square table where it sits where you can see the kids in the family room. The adults can sit at the table. We can have an adult conversation. I don't have to worry. But my daughter likes attention. And so she wants to go around and dance around the table and put on a show. And so I'm like, baby, calm down. So it's 4 of us at the table. And so we each put our hand on a corner of the table. Because we know her. She bouncing. She ain't paying attention to what she's doing. And when we keep trying to put our hand, she keep trying to take our hand down. We put our hand up. She take our hand down. Come on, Daddy. Watch me dance. She take our hand down. I put it up. Come on, Daddy. Finally, I said, okay. She keep dancing. I move my head. You know what happens next. Boom. She run right into the corner of the table. Here it goes. Ah! She's screaming. She's hollering. I pick her up and kiss her. It's okay, baby. Daddy's here. Listen, be careful of trying to remove the boundary God has for you to protect you. You keep trying to move his hand off your life because you want to do what you want to do, and you don't realize you're getting ready to run into the corner of the table. Here's the good news, though. Let me help you. For those of you who got some bumps and boo-boos and bruises, when I picked up my daughter, I didn't fuss at her and say, you knew better. You shouldn't have been dancing around that table. I told you to sit down. That's not what I did. I picked her up and kissed her and said, Daddy's here. And listen, I came to tell you tonight, it doesn't matter what you've been through, how you've fallen, how you've hurt, what you're going through. God wants to tell you tonight he's here and he loves you despite you. This is what blessed me, though. This is what blessed me because kids have a short memory. So it wasn't but 10 minutes later, here we go again. Look, Daddy, here we go again. I said, okay, this time I'm not putting my hand up on the table. You should know better. She's dancing. She's jumping around. This is what blessed me. She walked up and took my hand and put it on the table. Yeah, because she understood when Daddy has his hand in it, everything's going to be all right. When Daddy's got his hand in it, I'm protected. When Daddy's got his hand in it, I can make it through it. And that's what I want you to understand tonight as we attempt to unpack this passage. In this passage, we meet a leper. This leper has no name. The text literally calls him a leper. This is jacked up. Isn't it messed up how somebody knows you by your issues and not your name? His identifier is by what he's going through and not who he is. Don't front like you don't know. Everybody just knows you as the nerd. Everybody knows you as the one who had the teen pregnancy. Everybody knows you as the one who used to date so-and-so. Everybody knows you as the one who has no father present in the home. They only know you by your issues instead of your name. It's jacked up. You're just the jock. You're just her. You're just him. He has no storyline. He's dealing, and then not only is that, he's dealing with leprosy. Now, if you lost, let me help you. Leprosy is a jacked up disease. It's chicken pox on steroids. It doesn't go away. It's a loathsome disease. It's seemingly incurable. It spreads all over your body. It's painful. It affects the nerves and the vocal cords to the point that you can't even shout or sing or talk with a loud voice. Leprosy was such a big deal in the Old Testament that it was the closest equivalent to AIDS in our current cultural context would be AIDS. That's how bad this was. It was terrible. It was a very symbolic reminder of what sin was. Because leprosy, like sin, was seemingly incurable. It was spreading everywhere. Nobody wanted to be around you. Here's the blessing of this. It deserves to be noticed then that one of the first miracles the Lord ever performed was to cure leprosy. That he cured symbolically what he was going to do in reality and took sin away. And so I think there are some valuable lessons we can learn from this leper tonight. Some valuable lessons that I want you to get. Matthew chapter 8, verse 1. We're going to go verse by verse tonight. Large crowds followed Jesus as he came down. Somebody shout down. Down the mountainside. Lesson number 1 is about the path. Lesson number 1 is about the path. The path we take often deals with the person or the people we follow. My question tonight is, who are you following? Because your circumstances give insight into your connections. Okay, let me help you. The devil don't have any reason to mess with you if you're still on his team. So you might want to be careful of being appreciative of never ever dealing with anything, because you might be on the wrong side of the ball. The path we take, often the decisions we make and the life we live and the steps we take are determined by the people we're connected to and who we follow. We should be following Jesus. The text says they were following Jesus down. Who is this Jesus? Mary's baby. This Jesus, Joseph's stepson, Joanna's nephew, Elizabeth's nephew. Listen, this is Joanna's grandson here. This is John's first cousin we're talking about. This Jesus that says, listen, sometimes you're going to deal with stuff when you follow me. And they're following him down the mountain. Listen, they followed Jesus down. Somebody say down. Watch, Jesus went up the mountain in Matthew chapter 5. In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus go up the mountain. Matthew chapter 5, Matthew chapter 6, Matthew chapter 7 is one long sermon. If y'all think I preach long, you didn't hear what I just said. That's 3 chapters of the Bible, one message. I don't even want to know how long that church service was. He's teaching what's called the Sermon on the Mount. That's where you get the Beatitudes. You get messages on divorce, on prayer, on fasting, on children obey your parents. All of that is taught here, and he teaches that this one long sermon. By the time we get to chapter 8, he's done preaching, and they're coming down the mountain. Let me help you. Jesus only goes on mountains to do one of 2 things, to teach or to pray. That's it. If you read the context of Scripture, whenever you see Jesus go on a mountain, he's going to teach or he's going to pray. My question is, when is the last time you did either one of those? Because the reality is you have the responsibility to do both. Yep, to teach. I got Bible. Matthew 28:19. Therefore, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12. You have been believers so long that now you ought to be teaching others. Instead, you need someone to teach you again the basic things about God's word. I hear you. I'm young, though. I'm new in the faith. What can I teach? What you know. You didn't come to Camp Exalted to absorb something and not give it back out. Listen, he says, pray, teach, pray. Luke 18:1. One day Jesus told his disciples a story to show that they should always pray and never give up. When do I pray? Always. When I wake up, pray. When I eat breakfast, pray. Before the class, during the class, after the class, before the practice, while I'm in practice, in the shower, in the car, pray. Man should pray always. Listen, you need to understand how powerful this is. The book of the book of Job says this in chapters 1 and chapters 2. It says that the sons of God are able to approach the presence of God. The sons of God come to the throne and they meet God. The angels show up and they can talk to God. This is what Job chapter 1, Job chapter 2 says. And Satan shows up to the throne. Satan shows up and has a conversation with God. You're not getting this. Revelation 12 verse 10 says this, that Satan comes to the Lord and accuses us day and night. Day and night, my bad, I'm back. Day and night. day and night. Revelations 12, verse 10. Day and night, Satan shows up. Catch this. That means the enemy is talking twice a day about you. If the enemy can find time to talk about you, surely you can find time to talk to God about you. You've got to pray. Man says they will pray. Why did I say all of this? Because they're following him down. Somebody say down. They're following him down the mountain. What's my point? It's easy to follow people on the way up. It's not so easy to follow them on the way down. It's easy to follow people on their way up when they're climbing a mountain, when they're getting a big contract, when they're making the money. It's easy to follow Jesus on the way up when he's teaching and praying for me and healing me and feeding 5,000 and making sure I'm not hungry and taking care of me and fulfilling all my dreams. It's not so easy to follow him down and he's not talking as much. It's not so easy to follow him down and I'm not seeing or getting something from him. You've got to be able to stick with Jesus even when it's your time to go down the mountain. Why? You want to know why? You saw the NBA Finals. That's why. I don't care if you're a bandwagon Cavaliers fan or a bandwagon Warriors fan. I don't care if you really love Steph or if you really love LeBron. You know, like I know, when they were down 3-1, everybody said it was over. Everybody said the series was over. Everybody said he couldn't win. He's a quitter still. He ain't got it in him. He's nobody. And when you looked up, the Cavs were the NBA champions. Listen, listen, you can hate it. I'm a diehard Lakers fan. I don't care. You can hate it. You can love it. The reality is, don't count me out till it's over, though. And I need you to understand that when you follow Jesus, it may look bad. It may seem like he doesn't hear you, that he's not getting it, that he's not understanding what you're going through. But if you hang in there, baby, he's going to show up and you're going to have a comeback. So here we go. It's about the path. Let's keep going. Matthew chapter 8, verse 2. Suddenly, a man with leprosy approached him and knelt before him. Lord, the man said, if you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. Lesson number 2 is about the process. First the path, then the process. He's going up. Jesus is coming down. Jesus is coming down the mountain. The leper is on his way up the mountain. The text suggests then that they meet somewhere in the middle. The occurrence does not happen in the valley. This meeting does not happen on the mountaintop. It happens in the middle. What am I trying to say? That God can meet you in the middle of your stuff. That he's not only going to speak to you when you hit rock bottom or when you get to the top, but he's a God who's willing to get his hands dirty and meet you where you are. This man has leprosy. Why am I saying that? Leprosy, if you understand anything about biblical leprosy, let me help y'all. This dude is an outcast. He's an exile. What am I saying? He can't hang in the hood with everybody else. When y'all got rec time, he got to go back to the dorm. Matter of fact, he's so nasty, he can't come on the property. He's an exile. He's got to live with other people who are messed up like him. He's got to live in a community with other lepers because he's too dirty to be around us. This is what they said. He's got to stay with other sick people. Listen, if you touch him, then you're unclean now. And so you got to imagine, this man has been living with leprosy so long, he doesn't even know what it feels like to be physically touched in a long time. Some of you are in that position. You don't know when it was the last time somebody hugged you because they really loved you. When they shook your hand, but they didn't want something from you. He hasn't been touched. He doesn't know what it is to be blessed or fed or loved on in a long time. Here's what's powerful. He still comes to Jesus. He's not supposed to, and he still comes. People are going to talk about him, and he still comes. The police could show up. He's still going to come. He's going to lose all his friends behind this, but he's still going to show up. Bae may not love him no more. He's still going. The haters is mad right now. He's still going. Text says he approached. This is the first thing he did. He approached him. This is bold to do as a leper. He approached him by himself against the crowd, against all odds, against what everybody else said. Here's the second thing he did. He adored him. He knelt and he worshiped God. I love this. Luke chapter 5 verse 12 says he fell on his face before Jesus. Let me say it to you this way. FaceTime gets you FaceTime. When you're willing to get on your face, God will meet you face to face. You want to have a real conversation with God? Worship him. You really want him to show up for you? Worship him. You really want him to meet a need for you? Worship him. You got to act like he's the one who can show up for you. Listen, he approached, he adored, then he asked. Notice, he didn't ask before he worshiped. God ain't an ATM. He worshiped, then he asked. He made his request known. Now listen, while this is the first record of a curing of leprosy by all three synoptic, here's that word again, all three synoptic, Matthew, Mark, Luke, all the same gospels. This is the first time we see this. Listen, this is the first time we see the healing of a leper. Here's the reality then we have to assume he heard about what Jesus did for others and believed Jesus' same power could do it for him. Okay, let me say it again another way. He had to understand that even though I got a different problem, it's the same power. I need you to come close and catch that. Even though nobody has been healed like I've been healed, if God can do all of this other stuff, then surely he can do what I need him to do for me. Different problem, same power. Ain't nobody in here a leper, but it's the same power. The same power that can heal leprosy can deal with you. The same power that can heal leprosy can fix your situations in your house, in your family, and your attitudes, and your relationships, and your grades, and your personality. Problem, same power. His appeal, listen, was not to God's ability, but to his accommodation. In other words, there wasn't a concern if Jesus could. The leper was concerned if Jesus would. he was like, is dude going to consent? Is he going to be down for this? Does he have time for me? Am I ready enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? Is he even going to see me when I show up for him? Does he have time for me? This is what we call a theological issue, though. This is a problem. This is a biblical issue. This is why. Because he worshiped him and then asked. If he really knew who he was worshiping, he would have known that he would. He didn't have to ask. Listen, I need you to understand this, that worshiping ought to shown him that God would never contradict his word. His word said he was wounded for my transgressions, bruised for my iniquities. The chastisement of his peace was upon me, and by his stripes we are healed. The word are. Let's go to English class. I know it's the summer. Are. We are healed. Not was healed, not going to be healed, not might be healed, not maybe you going to heal me, not you going to think about heal me. We are healed. That I can do it now and I can keep doing it. So listen, this is what he should have said. He should have walked up to Jesus, worshiped, and got up and said, my turn. And I dare you to be that bold with Jesus tonight, to look at him and say, God, I love you, my turn. You know the issue, my turn. You know what I'm dealing with, my turn. You know what I'm suffering with. You know what my family is dealing with. You know what my mama is dealing with. It's our turn. You can show up for me. That's the kind of God we serve. Here we go. Let's keep rolling. Let's look at verse 3. Matthew chapter 8, verse 3. Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said. Be healed. And instantly the leprosy disappeared. There's lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is about the procedure. Jesus touching him is really a contextual contradiction. It's an oxymoron. It's a problem. We have an issue here. This don't make sense. If you've been halfway paying attention, you should have heard me say, if you touch a leper, we got a problem. If you touch a leper, now you got cooties too. If I got cooties and you touch cooties, you get cooties. So we got a problem here because he's a leper and Jesus touches him. You don't touch lepers. The clean, especially a priest or a prophet, especially a holy dude, the pastor ain't supposed to touch the dirty people. That's what the Old Testament taught them. In the Old Testament, it said this. If you read Leviticus chapter 5, verse 3, or Leviticus chapter 13, verse 46, the clean don't touch the unclean. The priest and the prophet don't touch the unclean, because now they're what they call defiled. They're tainted. They got problems. They got cooties. Watch this. In the Old Testament, if the clean touched the dirty, then the clean got dirty. But in the New Testament, if the clean touched the dirty, then the dirty got clean. This is what's powerful about Jesus, that he's available to be touched, because your mess doesn't transfer, his miracles do. Your issues don't transfer, the power of his blood transfers to you. Your problems don't transfer, his solution does. That's why Jesus is available. Because when you come to him, you can't change him, but he'll change you though. That's why I love Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly before the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Jesus is our high priest, and he wants us to come to him. He wants you to show up. He wants you to be bold enough to say, God, here I am. Do something. Listen, when the leper shows up, the healing now is instantaneous. Here we go. His trouble was extended. His triumph was expeditious. His trouble was prolonged. His healing was instant. He had been going through for a while, but when God decided to fix it, it happened immediately. With some things, the suffering feels like forever, but the solution can happen in a flash. That's why you come to Jesus. That's why you got to be there. Because listen, he's the kind of God that says, listen, I understand the process of the suffering and what you're dealing with, but when you come to me, I can handle it immediately. I can deal with it instantly. I can show up for you. Let's finish up. Matthew chapter 8, verse 4. Then Jesus said to him, don't tell anyone about this. Instead, go down to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. Lesson number 1, path. Lesson number 2, process. Lesson number 3, right? The procedure. Lesson number 4, the presentation. Jesus tells him, this messed me up, be quiet. Shh, hush. Don't tell nobody. Be quiet. Go to church. Wait a minute, hold on, bro. I've been in the exile, outcast. Dude, I've been with a whole bunch of other sick folk. You telling me, yep, I gave you a miracle, you healed. I know. Shh, be quiet. Don't say nothing. Be quiet. Nothing. Go to church. He said, go to church, see the priest. He got a problem. This is weird to me. He says, and then when you get to church, take an offering. Whoa, bro, I don't have no money. I'm a leper. Take some money. Go to church, see the priest. Take an offering. Take a sacrifice. Don't go empty-handed. He says, follow the law of the priest, approving your cleanliness and accepting you back into the community. Let me help you. When lepers got clean, which never happened, but let's just say you were dirty for another reason. You were sick. You had a rash, they would say in the Old Testament. You had a rash. You had a sickness. When you got cured, you'd have to show up to the priest, and he'd have to approve your cleanliness. He'd have to tell you, you good to go. Appreciate you, player, go home. Okay? The priest decided if you were clean or not. So then Jesus, help me then. Why send the man to church? He's excited. He's been cured. He's free. He doesn't have leprosy anymore. Let's read the Message version. Let's read the Message translation. I love Eugene Peterson. Same verse, Matthew chapter 8, verse 4. Jesus said, don't talk about this all over town. Just quietly present your healed body to the priest, along with the appropriate expressions of thanks to God. Watch this next sentence. Your cleansed and grateful life, not your words. You missed it. Back up. Rewind. Say that again. Your cleansed and grateful life. And the conjunction. Let's read it in regular English. Your cleansed life and your grateful life. not your words, will bear witness to what I have done. Okay, I need you to get this. Understand this. And until this point, we're still under what we call the law, under what Old Testament law would say. Old Testament law, you probably have heard the 10 Commandments. Don't do, don't do, don't do, don't do, and don't do that either. That's the law. Don't do that, and don't do that either. Stop, go, sit down, be quiet, stand up, show up. That's the law. Grace is different than that. Here's the reality. Up to this point, we're still under the law. Jesus hadn't died yet. There is no cross yet. There is no salvation yet. None of that has happened. So Jesus is exhibiting grace. He hasn't executed it. He's grace walking around, but he hasn't transitioned and given what we understand as the dispensation of grace. He's come to fulfill the law. He's perfect. He's giving it. He just hasn't made it free and made the covenant yet. So he needed the man to get the church because he can't break his own law. Okay, watch this. Had the man talked, he could have easily gotten caught up and not done what was needed to get back in the community. Oh, don't front. You know how people are, because it would have been more about him than it was about him. Yeah, because he would have got healed and said, look what happened to me. Look how God blessed me. Look what I have. Look what I'm doing. Look what God did for me. And the problem was that he would have got more of the recognition than the master would have. Okay, let me help you. Back at home, we have what we call small group Bible studies in homes. And recently, I was having a bad week. I'm going to be honest. It was terrible. I was dealing with some stuff, and I wasn't going to do nothing. I was going to call everybody in my small group and say, we not meeting. I don't want to do it. I'm going to crawl up in this bed. I'm going to turn on Netflix, and I'm going to let it watch me. I'm not going to do nothing. And my wife looked at me and said, bruh, that ain't happening. Nope, we ain't going to do it. You're going to teach this small group. These people are going to come to this house. We're going to eat. We're going to study this Bible. I said, why? She said, I know you don't feel good, but it ain't about you. I know you had a rough day, but it ain't about you. There are some people who need to come to this house so that you can get together in community and everybody can get help. Okay, what's my point? Often many people miss blessings and miracles because if we got them, we'd put on a selfish show and not give selfless sacrifice. The issue with receiving is not the requirements to receive or the resources to receive, but our response after we get it. Let me make that real clear. The issue with what you getting something from God is he wants to know how you're going to handle it. Because God will get it to you if he can get it through you. He doesn't want you to be the only one who can have a relationship and understand the miracle and understand what God wants. God needs the people to grow more than your platform to grow. Okay, I said it last night. It deserves to be said again. Celebration experiences depreciation when done in isolation. Celebration is not as good when you do it by yourself. You need community. You need people together. And this high priest, Jesus, urged him to get to his priest so that God could get the glory and everybody could be helped. Good friend of mine, Pastor Tim Ross, he pastors Embassy City Church in Irving, Texas. He tells this story. He said when his son, Nathan, for his 7th birthday, had been wanting a skateboard for a couple years. And so Pastor Tim said, all right, Nathan, when you turn 7, I'm going to buy you a skateboard. Nathan's birthday came around. He took his boys, Nathan and Noah, to the store. Nathan is 7, Noah is 5 at the time. And so he takes them to the store, and they walking around, pick skateboards. And just like every other kid, it's taking them forever to pick a skateboard. And so he's looking and looking and looking. Here was the problem, though. Every time Noah would get a skateboard, he'd pick 2. Pastor Tim was like, bro, you tripping. I said, a skateboard, one, a singular, one skateboard. But every time he got on a skateboard, oh, daddy, I like this one, he'd get 2. Oh, daddy, I like this one, he'd get 2. Finally, he said, okay, son, maybe you're not understanding. We're here to get you one skateboard. And Nathan looked at him and said this. He said, I appreciate you, daddy, for wanting me to get a skateboard. He says, but I don't want one if Noah can't have one too. And Pastor Tim said when he heard Nathan's heart, he opened up his wallet. He said, because there's something to be said about the selfless sacrifice of a child who says, I don't want daddy just to bless me. I want him to bless everybody who's connected to me. Listen, if nothing else, Jesus through this leper teaches us that he doesn't want us to just have faith for ourselves, but to have faith for other folk too. That we don't need to just have enough faith for God to heal us and bless us and change us and show up for us. We ought to have enough faith tonight to say, God, you can show up for everybody connected to me. So listen, I want you to bow your heads, close your eyes. I'm going to ask the worship team to come back up. I want you to make a decision tonight about some faith. And so listen, we're going to have 2 clarion calls tonight. Our leaders are going to be separated in the back. We're going to have men on the left and women on the right. But listen, I want you to have enough faith, not just for yourself, but for the people you're connected to tonight. Listen, Jesus is here. He can be touched. He wants you to come boldly to the throne of grace. He wants to see about you. He is available for you. And if you trust him enough, he'll show up on your behalf. He'll meet you right where you are. And so listen, there's 2 groups of people. Here's the first one. You don't know Jesus for yourself. You don't have faith in this guy. You keep hearing about him. You heard about him being taught today. We've preached to you about him. You've come to camp for him, but you don't have your own relationship with him. I want you to have that tonight. But listen, there's another group of people in here. You are saved. You love Jesus. You love God. I love God. You love God. You don't love God? What's wrong with you? But you've made that decision, right? You love God. Here's the reality. There are some people you're connected to that are dealing with some stuff. And you need to have enough faith tonight to say, listen, I'm going to go stand and pray with somebody so that my mother can get healed. So that my father's faith will change. So that my brother will get his life right. So that my cousin will get off drugs. I'm going to pray for my friend because she got molested. I'm going to pray for my neighborhood because they shooting every night. I'm going to pray for my community. I'm going to pray for my church because I'm young, but I know they're struggling. And so listen, it's 2 groups of people. We're going to make a decision right now. Listen, you may need Jesus. I want you to get him. I want you to have Jesus for yourself. But then there are some of you that say, listen, I want some other people to get free. I want you to remember what I told you last night. Maybe you weren't here. There's a story of a Roman centurion. His servant is sick. He comes to Jesus. He says, Jesus, my servant is sick. Can you heal him? Jesus says, no problem. I got you. Let's go to your house. And the Roman says, no, hold on, bro. You ain't have to go to my house. I'm a man in authority. When I tell people to go, they go. When I tell people to come, they come. When I say jump, they say how high. And so I know, Jesus, that if you speak a word from here, it'll reach home. Can I tell you something tonight? If you speak a word from Camp Exalted, it'll reach your house. If you pray here, it can reach your house. If you pray here, it can reach your neighborhood. Listen, tonight is the night. You don't have to wait. We neither know the day nor the hour. Tomorrow is not promised. You've heard that before, but I'm serious. Hear me. Today can be the best day of your life. You can pray tonight and get home and wonder what in the world happened. You prayed, and Jesus showed up on your behalf. And so listen, I'm going to count to 3. When I count to 3, I want everybody in the room to stand up. And if you need prayer for Jesus, or if you want to pray for somebody else, I want you to move. My boys to the left, my girls to the right. We're going to count to 3. My boys to the left, my girls to the right. If you want a relationship, you want a miracle for yourself, or if you want a miracle for your family, I challenge you to move. I don't care who you're sitting by. They'll still love you when you're done. They'll still be sitting there. They'll still be your friend. You don't have to worry about it. But if you need Jesus for yourself, your friend can't get you into heaven. Your friend can't fix it for you. Jesus can. And so if it's for you or for your family, for you or for your community, for you or for your friend, when I count to 3, I want everybody to get up. If you don't move, I want you to worship. Boys to the left, girls to the right. 1, 2, for you or your family. 3, everybody stand up. You need prayer, go get prayer.